Hello everybody. Boy, has it been a day. I was going to do the video this morning and I came in the kitchen. Actually, I was going to do it while I was making breakfast because before I got too deep into doing recipes and things, I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about my, if you want to call it a philosophy, and like why I chose to move here and kind of like the way I choose to cook and sort of like my whole lifestyle, just to give you a justification for it. So that you understand why I'm choosing and doing the things that I'm doing. But anyway, I was going to start working on that video this morning, and I opened the cupboard and it was covered in those little like silverfish or those little bugs or something. I've never had that problem since I moved here. We've always sprayed for pests and roaches and termites and everything. And anyway, you know, the fire ants have been crazy this year. I don't know what they've been like at your place, but we've had horrible fire ants, and they've bitten me and my sister and the dogs, and it's been a huge battle. And now I open up the cupboard and I have all these things. So I ended up throwing away a ton of food this morning. Threw away a lot of cornmeals, a lot of things like grits, oatmeal, different things like that. And I went and shopped and bought a few other things, but mostly I store my things in plastic bags. This is an old bag. I probably had this bag 10, 12 years. That I put cornmeal in, and it goes in the cupboard. And sometimes if I have room in the freezer, I'll store extra ones in the freezer, but most of the time I just keep it in a Ziploc. And thankfully the Ziploc ones kind of kept everything safe and the bugs didn't get to it. So anyway, that put me off, and plus trying to learn how to film these YouTube videos. You have to almost go back to college, because honestly there is so much that you just never think about, and getting my brain activated to do it has been a challenge. So anyway, here we are, and hopefully I'm going to kind of go through some basic pantry items for you guys that I feel like that are staples in a southern kitchen, at least in my southern home, and talk to you about why I choose those things and why I think that they're important. And we're going to start off with a very, very simple one here. I'm going to start off showing you this Domino's brand golden sugar. You guys know that there's turbinado sugars, there's white refined sugar, just plain standard sugar. It's highly refined. You know, it's the whitest one. This golden one has some of the molasses still in it, so it has a more mineral taste to it, a deeper, more complex flavor, and the sweetness in it isn't that forward, punchy sweet that sugar has. Sugar has a really bright sweet that's kind of like forward in your mouth, and if things are sweetened with sugar, you can definitely tell it, as opposed to corn syrup, which I do not like, and I avoid at all costs at the grocery store or in soft drinks or in anything. I don't like corn syrup because corn syrup flattens everything out. Anything that's sweet, if it's sweetened with corn syrup, it makes it taste dead and like really flat, and it's sweet tasting. Manufacturers use it because of dosing, because all of their equipment, their recipes are measured by volume, by liquid volume. So they can, it's just like, you guys have probably seen those faucets advertised on TV where you talk to it. Basically, you just say, I want 8 ounces of water, and it actually doses 8 ounces of water into the glass for you. That's how these companies, their equipment it's set up that way to manufacture things now. So if it's a soft drink company, let's say a barbecue sauce company, whatever it is, if they have corn syrup in their list of ingredients, it means they're using dosing equipment, and they just press the button and the computer knows how much to squirt in, and it just squirts it in. What that does, it makes it at least less expensive for you to purchase, because humans didn't have to touch it. It comes in essentially big train car loads. Those big things full of corn syrup show up, and it's just dumped into a vat. It keeps a human being from having a job and having to work and having to measure out that sugar and pour it into something. So that's something that I avoid. But getting off the corn syrup thing, which we'll probably touch back on in the future again, I tend to use this Domino's golden sugar a lot for baking or things where I want the sugar to come forward. If it's just a standard cake or something, I just use normal sugar. I don't bother with using a golden sugar or turbinado sugar or any of those that you'll see in the supermarket. They do have more flavor though. It's, I would say you owe it to yourself to use it in a sweet tea or in a coffee or anything that you're going to taste that's forward and sugar is a pronounced flavor. I encourage you to try, stop using white table sugar and go to one of these. It just tastes so much better. You'll be so much happier. Another one I'm going to quickly go through that I see complaints online all the time. I go on Facebook and I see people talking about it, which is pastas. This is directly linked to our food chain here in America. Most pastas that are manufactured in America use American grains, which means that the grain is being controlled by one of these big conglomerates, right? So it's going to be like, I don't know, what is it, NSF, there's, what's that, ADM Supermarket to the World, there's Monsanto. There's all these different companies that produce grain and contract farmers to grow grain all over. Back in the old days, Dad used to grow corn a lot, was one of the things that he grew, which we also grew wheat and soybeans, and he would save the seeds from year to year. And I would say that went on until the late 70s, early 80s, when these companies started forcing farmers to purchase their seeds. And so if that farmer was going to grow that crop, they have to purchase those seeds from that company, and they have to use the program that they've developed to grow those seeds. So they have to use all the fertilizers, all the chemicals, the sprays, the retarders, the things that make it come ripe all at the same time. There's a whole sort of like recipe or prescription, maybe you want to call it, of how those farmers have to do it, or they can't sell the product. They can't get rid of that grain that they grow. So that links into, well, some of them might talk about the flours and the cornmeal that I'm going to get into, but basically with the pasta here, I may be going backwards a little bit. American pasta is made from that grain. It's GMO, it's modified. It means that they've gone into the cell structure of it and they've changed the cellular structure of that product for some benefit that we don't know. Sometimes it's for shelf stability, sometimes it's for shippability, sometimes it's for, like, you may be eating a grain that's been stored for 8 years and we're just now getting around to eating it this year, but it's had 8 years of storage and somehow it made it, and it's because the genetics have been modified and they were able to store it that long. They're not breeding these things for flavor. They're not breeding it for health purposes or anything. Most other countries ban this. Most other countries, civilized countries in the world or whatever, they don't allow these things to be done. They don't allow it in their products. They don't allow it to be fed to animals. In America, we are allowed to have any of it because we're America and we can have what we want. It's the land of the free, which is all great. It just means that you have to be a smarter consumer. You have to pay attention to labels. You have to read. You have to educate yourself, because that's not of any importance to do any of that. But you know, if you want to know what you're putting in your body, you better read and find out. And for me, it's not even so much about that. I can eat American grain. Doesn't bother me. Actually, a lot of products I buy have American grain. Pasta's one thing I don't. You cook this pasta, you follow any Italian recipe, it's going to say cook it al dente, which means to the tooth. It means not quite done or on the edge of being done where it has a bite to it, to the tooth. When I was in Italy and we had pastas, they were so al dente, it was like eating peanuts. And it was shocking to me at first, because when you would take a bite of the pasta, it was soft, but when you got to the center of it, there was a slight crunch. It like fought you back. It was like a definite snap. And that was the al dente in it. And I hated it at first. I thought, oh my God, this is disgusting. By the time I left Italy, I could not stop eating it. I would have just like sat in a pot and just rubbed it all over me. It was just so freaking fantastic. And that's one thing that I tried to recreate when I got back home from going to Italy, which is why I'm going to say to you, buy Italian pastas. Now you may say, every pasta's Italian because it's in the grocery store and it's with the spaghetti and stuff. It's pasta, it's Italian. Well, yeah, pasta is an Italian word. It doesn't mean the pasta was made in Italy from Italian grain, European grain. That's the important thing. You can cook mushy, bad pasta every time. You can make pasta that falls apart in the pot every time. You buy Italian pasta, if it says on it, imported from Italy, this one says, sometimes they say product of Italy. What does this one say? Premium bronze cut pepper, made in Italy. This one says product of Italy. Now, some companies like DiCecco, they process pasta in America as well as in Italy. It depends on your supermarket and where you're shopping. If you're shopping at a more upscale supermarket, like if you're going to Whole Foods or to, let's say, to like Kroger or Harris Teeter or something like that, sometimes they'll blend them and they'll have a little section of Italian and a little section of like American. Even this is an IGA product. It was on clearance. What did I pay for this? I have to put on my glasses, you guys, because I can't see anything. This was on clearance for $1 a bag. Nobody will buy it. It's not Molars. It's not American Beauty. It's not Kraft or any of those other brands that we're used to in America. All these are brands that we don't understand or know anything about. But the difference is it's made out of Italian grain, which has not been genetically modified and not changed in any way. In other words, it is still wheat. It's still old-fashioned wheat like they ate 100 years ago, 200 years ago. We don't eat that kind of wheat in America anymore. We don't have it. You have to hunt for it. I mean, you can find it, but you've got to hunt for it. And so that's why I say buy Italian pasta, pasta made in Italy. Sometimes it may cost you an extra 25 cents for a container versus a packet versus buying American pasta. But I guarantee you, every supermarket you go to, Walmart, Target, every one of them, they stock this pasta of some brand. It does not matter what the name of it is, what company it's made by, as long as it says made in Italy, product of Italy. That's what you want to be looking for. Since we're talking about American grains, I'll continue on with a biggie for me, which is cornmeal. These are all products. This Lakeside yellow grits is one of the grits that I eat. Now, there's nothing more contentious, I think, in the South between classes, and what I'm going to talk about is sort of controversial, and it's hard to discuss without sounding maybe a little bit prejudiced or racist, but it's not my intent at all for this to come off like that. It's just information. We have a history with corn and with white corn and with yellow corn, and there's a sort of a idea in the South in certain classes and certain groups of people that white corn is what people ate. Yellow corn is what animals ate and what you gave, what poor people ate. I'm Native American. There's African American communities. A lot of times you might find African American communities and Native American communities, or let's just say poor people eating yellow corn, people with money eating white corns. I grew up on yellow corn, although we did have white corn. There's a difference in the taste of them. For my preference on grits, I prefer yellow grits. I prefer some of these smaller mills, like this is Lakeside Mills. They are in North Carolina. Grab my glasses again because I can't tell you where they are. They are in Rutherford, North Carolina. This is Moss. Moss is in Cottrell, North Carolina. These smaller mills tend to source their grains more locally. They have grains that are specific to the type products that they're making, so they wouldn't use every type of corn to make a grit because a grit is different from a cornmeal. And so the reason why I'm saying this is the more local you can shop and stay away from national brands, like if you buy, let's say there's a Martha White cornmeal, there's a Quaker cornmeal. These are national brands, right? They're all over America. You go to any Target, any Walmart, any place in America, you're going to find these brands of cornmeal. Those brands have been made homogenized. They've been made from a blend of corns and things that anybody in America typically will like. It's not specifically regional. It's not like terroir in wine, where it comes from where you taste the dirt and you taste the place where that food was grown in Italy. We sort of have that same thing in cornmeal and in flour and in things, because there's a taste that we associate with the South, and for my southern purposes here in eastern North Carolina and sort of like northern South Carolina on the side where I'm at, right here on the border, there's a taste of foods that I remember from my childhood that's lacking today. Especially if you go out to eat, especially if you go to a buffet and eat, especially if you go to a restaurant and eat and they're purchasing foods from these large companies like Cisco and American Foods and stuff. It's going to be this prepackaged things that are mixtures of ingredients that come from all over the United States. So you may be getting the corn from Montana and some from Texas and some from Minnesota, and it's all blended together, and they keep it uniform. They keep the taste uniform. Well, if you're cooking certain southern dishes, you want it to taste like the South. You don't want it to taste like generic America. And that's why I feel like it's important to buy these local products and look for them and source them out. And that way your food will taste like the area where you're from. If you live in the north, there's plenty of mills up north, there's plenty of mills out west. There's Shawnee Mills out in Oklahoma, I know from being out there. There's lots of places that make meals and flours and things that come from the area where the grains aren't sourced on sort of like a national level, they're sourced in a regional level. And to me, that's very important to shop that way and have those things in your pantry, because you get the taste of that area.